Hi, everyone. We have made it to the last chapter, chapter 20 of Where the Red Fern Grows. I am very excited yet sad that this book is coming to an end. It is definitely going in my books of favorites that I've read. Yesterday, we read chapter 18, and that was such an emotional chapter, at least for me. So I am looking forward to seeing what chapter 20, I'm so sorry, it was 19 yesterday, chapter 20 has for us today. Our whole time for reading this was for pleasure. It is a fictional book, realistic fiction. So because it has that fiction, your purpose for reading was just to enjoy it, and enjoying it I did for sure. All right, so we're going to go ahead and jump into chapter 20 of Where the Red Fern Grows. The following spring, we left the Ozarks. The day we moved, I thought everyone would be sad, but it was just the opposite. Mama seemed to be the happiest of all. I could hear her laughing and joking with my sisters as they packed things. She had a glow in her eyes that I've never seen before, and it made me feel good. I even noticed a change in Papa. He didn't have that whipped look on his face anymore. He was in high spirits as we carried the furniture out to the wagon. After the last item was stored in the wagon, Papa helped Mama to the spring seat, and we were ready to go. Papa, would you mind waiting a few minutes? I asked. I'd like to say goodbye to my dogs. Sure, he said, smiling. We have plenty of time. Go right ahead. Nearing the graves, I saw something different. It looked like a wild bush had grown up, practically covered the two little mounds. It made me angry to think that an old bush would have dared grow. Let me repeat that. It made me angry to think that an old bush would dare grow so close to the graves. I took out my knife, intending to cut it down. When I walked up close enough to see what it was, I stuck in a mouthful of air and stopped. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There between the graves, a beautiful red fern had sprung up from the rich mountain soil. It was fully 2 feet tall, and its red leaves had reached out in a rainbow arch curve over the graves of my dogs. I had heard of the old Indian legend about the red fern, how a little Indian boy and girl were lost in a blizzard and had frozen to death. In the spring, when they were found, a beautiful red fern had grown up between their two bodies. The story went on to say that only an angel could plant the seeds of a red fern, and that they never die. Where one grew, that one spot was sacred. Remembering the meaning of the legend, I turned and started hollering for Mama. Mama, Mama, I shouted, come here and hurry. You won't believe it. In a frightening voice, she shouted back, what is it, Billy? Are you all right? I'm all right, Mama, I shouted, but hurry. You just won't believe it. Holding her long skirt in her hand and with a frightening look on her face, Mama came puffing up the hillside. Close behind her came Papa and my sisters. What is it, Billy? Mama asked in a scared voice. Are you all right? Look, I said, pointing at the red fern. Staring wide-eyed, Mama gasped and covered her mouth with her two hands. I heard her say almost in a whisper, oh, it's a red fern, a sacred red fern. She walked over and very tenderly started fingering the long red leaves. In an awed voice, she said, all my life I've wanted to see one. Now I have. It's almost unbelievable. Don't touch it, Mama, my oldest sister whispered. It was planted by an angel. Mama smiled and asked, have you heard of the legend? Yes, Mama, my sister said. Grandma told me the story, and I believe it too. With a serious look on his face, Papa said, these hills are full of legends. Up until now, I've never paid much attention to them, but now I don't know. Perhaps there is something to the legend of the red fern. Maybe it is God's way of helping Billy understand why his dogs died. I'm sure it is, Papa, I said, and I do understand. I feel different now, and I don't hurt anymore. Come, Mama said, let's go back to the wagon. Billy wants to be alone with his dogs for a while. Just as they turned to leave, I heard Papa murmur in a low voice, wonderful indeed is the work of our Lord. As I stood looking at the two graves, I noticed things I haven't seen before. Wild violets, rooster heads, a mountain daisies had completely covered the two little mounds. A summer breeze gushed down from the rugged hills. I felt its warm caress as it fanned my face. I hummed a tune in the underbush and rustled the leaves on the huge red oak. The red fern weaved and danced to the music of the hills. Taking off my cap, I bowed my head. In a choking voice, I said, goodbye, old Dan and little Ann. I will never forget you. And this I know, if God made room in heaven for all good dogs, I know he made a special place for you. With a heavy heart, I turned and walked away. I knew that as long as I lived, I'd never forget the two little graves in the sacred red fern. Not far from home, the road wound its way up and over the hills. At the top, Papa stopped the team. We all stood up and looked back. It was a beautiful sight, one I will never forget. As I stood and looked at the house of my birth, it looked sad and lonely. There were no spiral of lazy blue smoke twisting from the rock chimney, no white leghorn hen chasing a June bug, no horse or cow standing with his head down and tail switching. I saw I had left the door to the barn loft open. A tuft of hay swung out. Wavered gently in the warm summer breeze. Something scurried across the vacant yard and disappeared under the barn. It was Sammy, our cat, our house cat. I heard my little sister say in a choking voice, Mommy, we forgot Sammy. There was no answer. To the left, I could see our fields of the zigzag lines of rail fence. Farther down, I could see the shimmering whiteness of the tall sycamores. My vision blurred as tears came to my eyes. The sorrowful silence was broken by my mother's voice. She asked, Billy, can you see it? See what, Mama? I asked. The red fern, she said. My older sister spoke up. I can see it, she said. Rubbing my eyes, I looked to the hillside above our home. There it stood in all the wild beauty, a waving red banner in a carpet of green. It seemed to be saying goodbye and don't worry, for I'll be here always. Hearing us sniffling, I turned around. My three little sisters had started crying. Mama said something to Papa. I heard the jingle of the trace chains as they tightened in the single trees. Our wagon moved on. I never been back to the Ozarks. All I have left are dreams and memories, but if God is willing, someday I'd go back to the beautiful hills. I'd like to walk again on the trails I walked in my boyhood days. Once again, I'd like to face the mountain breeze and smell the wonderful scent of redbuds and pawpaws and dogwoods. With my hands, I'd like to caress the cool white bark of the sycamores. I'd like to take a walk far back in the Flinty Hills and search for souvenirs or old bottle bit axe stuck deep in the side of the white oak tree. I know the handle has long since rotted away with time. Perhaps the rusty frame of coal iron lantern still hangs there on the blade. I like to see my old house place, the barn and the rail fences. I like to pause under the beautiful red oak where my sisters and I played in our childhood. I like to walk up to the hillside to the graves of my dogs. I'm sure the red fern has grown and has completely covered the two little mounds. I know it is still there, hiding in secret beneath those long red leaves. But it shouldn't be hidden from me, for me. Okay. But it shouldn't be hidden from me, for part of my life is buried there too. Yes, I know it is still there, for in my heart I believe the legend of the sacred red fern. And that is the end of chapter 20 of Where the Red Fern Grows. A little bit about the author, Wilson Rawls. It tells you in the very last page that he was born in a small farm in Oklahoma Ozarks. He did spend his youth in the heart of Cherokee Nation, prowling the rivers and hill bottoms with his only companion, an old blue tick hound. So it's only one, not the two. Very interesting, very interesting. Definitely, I've said it before. I love this book. Growing up, I probably did read it in elementary school. I just don't recall remembering it. But I'm very glad we got to share this book together, read this book together. I will definitely implement it in the following years of our reading class. So I hope you enjoyed this book as much as I did. Very interesting. I heard that there is also a movie that goes to it. So if I find one that's an appropriate copy, I'll share. And when y'all get time, see how it maybe is aligned with the novel, or maybe what is different from it. All right, guys, I hope again you enjoyed this beautiful chapter read, novel read, Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls.